cuts to the armed forces expenditure from year on year in the immediate future to manage the budget. And that cannot send a positive message to President Putin. And I think it is deeply unhelpful. So I think we need to address the current situation as well as the long-term situation, and we are failing to do that.
While we've been on air this morning, President Zelensky's right-hand man and a key member of the Ukrainian peace negotiation team is having his home and office searched by anti-corruption authorities. Dominic Hauschild is a Sunday Times reporter in Kyiv. Dominic, good morning.
Morning, Callum.
What do we know about what's happening this morning?
Well, not a huge amount right now. As you said, the Ukrainian anti-corruption agencies NABU and SAPO are carrying out investigations at the home of Andrei Yermak. Yermak is this Svengali-like figure behind the throne of Zelensky. He's one of Zelensky's closest advisors. And this is part of a wide-ranging corruption case that broke earlier this month that involved around $100 million of embezzlement from Ukraine's energy sector. It led to the resignation of two of Zelensky's leading ministers, and one of his close business associates has fled the country. This is a huge story that's unfolding this morning. Given Yermak's closeness to Zelensky, it could have significant blowback on the president.
Yeah, indeed. Dominic, thank you for the update, and we will keep in touch as more details emerge. That's Dominic Hauschild reporting from Kyiv. Well, let's consider, I suppose, the wider progress or lack of progress towards peace for Ukraine. President Putin has promised to keep up the war if Kyiv refuses to retreat from its own territory. So can a peace deal actually be agreed? General Sir John McColl is with us, former NATO Deputy Supreme Allied Commander. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Can I take a reflection from you, first of all, on what Dominic was just reporting? The right-hand man of Zelensky's having his home and office raided by the anti-corruption authorities. Dominic referring to the potential for blowback on Zelensky and, I suppose, in theory, Sir John, on the peace process itself as well.
Yeah, well, it's clearly deeply unhelpful for two main reasons. The first reason is that it adds credence to Putin's claim that the government of Ukraine is not legitimate. And so that's unhelpful. And the second reason is that the successful outcome of the war in Ukraine relies heavily upon long-term financial commitments from Europe and from the United States and from elsewhere. If the country is mired in corruption, I would suspect that countries are less likely to feel positive about providing that commitment. So for two reasons, I think it's deeply unhelpful.
Yeah.
On the positive side, at least they are they're dealing with it. They're getting a grip of it. And if they're seen to do that in a transparent and positive way, I think there's some positives that can come out of it.
Yes, that's a good point, I suppose. It just, I suppose, does weaken the position of the Ukrainians in this immediacy of something like this happening. And in some ways, inadvertently, of course, but gives Putin something resembling an upper hand.
Yes. I mean, I think going on to the sort of current situation, I think what we have at the moment is Putin feels that the impetus is with him. He feels positive. His latest pronouncements on the 19-point plan, or the proposals that come out of the 19-point plan, indicate that he doesn't feel that there's any pressure upon him to compromise. And clearly that dynamic needs to change if we're to make progress.
Yeah. How can that dynamic be changed?
Well, as I said, the first thing is we need a long-term commitment, financial commitment and military commitment from Europe and from elsewhere. So I think that's one area. The second area that I would highlight is the overriding importance of keeping the United States engaged and keeping the positive support of the United States going. And in particular, the supply of Patriot missiles, PAC-3 missiles, and intelligence in terms for targeting. Without those capabilities, Ukraine is going to find continuing the war much more difficult. Not impossible, but much more difficult.
Yeah. We also had the budget, of course, this week. And I guess the kind of consideration on defence spending is whether we're edging any closer to where we need to be in all of this. The UK currently spends 2.3% of GDP on defence and has ambitions to spend much, much more. Do you see that ambition being realised at any point in the near, medium or long term?
Well, I think there's a disappointing disconnect between the very thorough and accurate analysis of SDR, which says there is a near and present danger and a requirement to invest now. And then what you see is a plan to invest, but to invest at some time in the future. If you look at the recent pronouncements from the outgoing chief of the defence staff, you will note that there are to be cuts, actually cuts to the armed forces expenditure from year on year in the immediate future to manage the budget. And that cannot send a positive message to President Putin. And I think it is deeply unhelpful. So I think we need to address the current situation as well as the long-term situation, and we are failing to do that.
Yeah. Would we benefit from hearing more from army bosses who are currently prevented from speaking out, from doing interviews, from appearing in the media, etc.? Do they need to be able to have their platform and have their voice heard?
Well, that's an ongoing dilemma. No, I think is the short answer to that.
Really?
This whole debate must be politically led, and it is the role of the service chiefs and indeed the chiefs of the defence staff to speak strongly and firmly and truthfully and transparently within the Ministry of Defence and within the political process. It is not the role of those in uniform to speak openly outside that forum. That's a recipe for anarchy, frankly.
Recipe for anarchy. General Sir John McColl, really good to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. He's a former NATO Deputy Supreme Allied Commander. Just to put the defence spending and the budget together for you, so the Office for Budget Responsibility forecasts that the government's longer-term commitment, this is for defence spending to reach 3% of GDP by 2034, would cost an additional £32 billion in today's money. So that's the sort of maths that would need to be done in order to hit that target.